Welcome back. So let's get to the papers. And Mr. Ihu Akiria, member, Nigerian Guild of Editors, is right here with us from our Abuja studio. Mr. Akiria, good morning. Welcome to the morning brief.
Yeah, good morning, Bukola. Good morning, Jeffrey. So it's a sad day today. You can see me in blacks.
Well, I don't know why that is, but I must ask, is it a red day for you for victory or a loss?
Well, I noticed the massive celebration in the studio this morning. Arsenal, after 22 years, has won the Premier League, cup. Well, that's fine for Arsenal. That's good. But back home in Nigeria, we all know what is happening in Oyo State. How Michael Oyedokun, a mathematics teacher, was slaughtered like a ram. I read the report by Babafemi Ojuda. That captures it all. So whilst everybody is celebrating, for me, my heart this morning is with all the other teachers, the pupils, the security agents, soldiers, policemen, and vigilante group who are in the forest hunting these deadly criminals in our midst. For me, I have nothing to celebrate in Nigeria right now. It is one tragedy after the other. So I feel very, very sad and unhappy. And that's the truth with me this morning.
Well, indeed, Mr. Akiria, the president has also spoken to it, and the governor of Oyo State has also been speaking, assuring parents and indeed the entire state that the remaining abductees will be rescued, and saying that they would listen to the demands of the kidnappers, but they would not bow to pressure, to terrorism. But what are your thoughts on this approach? Does Oyo have a choice in negotiating with these terrorists to ensure their release? What are the options open in ensuring the release of these bandits, of the abductees?
Well, the point the crisis is right now is, for me, it is like a double-edged sword. The bandits, well, I understand they have been, well, they are not bandits. These are terrorists. These are murderers, killers, Unfortunately, the federal government has a policy of reintegrating them, rehabilitating them, sew uniform, green and give to them, feeding them. I don't know of any country where killers, people who are unrepentant in the things that they do, they take delight in slaughtering the throats of fellow human beings. You rehabilitate such individuals. Of course, there are also unconfirmed reports that some of them are assimilated, they are incorporated, they are recruited into our security services. I don't know, as a journalist, it is difficult to confirm some of these reports. But for me, as I said, it's a double-edged sword. If they have been surrounded, it then depends on their mindset at this point. They may want to go down with all of the abductees, kill all of them, knowing fully well that they too will be killed at the end of the day. So it depends on the nature of their demand of government. If they're asking for ransom, and the government is sure that if they give them the ransom, they can't get away with it, then I would suggest that they should be given whatever they want. Once they get it and they release the abductees, then the government can go after them. Again, we can't discuss all of this on national TV because they also have their ears to the ground. What I hear this morning is that there are locals who actually provided the intel for them to come into those schools to kidnap those teachers and the pupils. So if locals are involved, that makes the situation, that complicates the situation for me this morning. As I said, it's a double-edged sword. I really don't know how government, I'm not a security person per se, but the government has its work cut out. The police, the army, and others, the DSS particularly, they are trained to handle situations like this. I know we have special forces in the DSS, in the police, and in the army. This is their job, well cut out. If we can take a cue from the U.S. Marine Corps, when incidents like this occur, they do not negotiate. They try to isolate the criminals, these terrorists, and then take them out. So we can use night vision equipment. At night, you know their location, you pinpoint where they are, and take them out. So while discussing negotiation, you can actually take them out with technology. So this is where investment in technology comes in by the government. The Oyo State government talks about acquiring drone helicopters, which will come on stream in some months' time. But the insecurity in Oyo State is becoming very worrisome. I do not know why the governor is dragging his feet and waiting and waiting. with reports that the Air Force is assembling the equipment for deployment. I would think that every governor in this country now at this moment, the major duty, including the president himself, is to focus on security of lives and property of Nigerians.
And you know, Mr. Akiria, we did ask the public relations officer of the Oyo State Police Command yesterday why measures had not been taken, you know, to comb that area, especially because there had been an attack there at the Oyo National Park in the same local government months before. But this is also a reminder to the federal government that other abductees are still in the terrorist camp in other states of the Federation. There's Kogi, I believe there's Kwara, there's Ngoshe, Borno, quite a number of abductees. The tally taken by the National Assembly, you know, just some weeks ago was about 449. So while focus is on Oyo, there are other abductees in the kidnappers' den. Let's begin with the papers now. This Nigeria is our first port of call, and you know, the launch of the autobiography of the former head of state seems to be taking us down memory lane. But besides that, the vice president is also making some interesting revelation. Tinubu was told, "I would kill, replace him," says VP Shettima. Danjuma, Gowon saved Nigeria. Of course, this is ascribed to General Danjuma. Gowon saved Nigeria from disintegration. Ex-head of state unveils autobiography, reveals Obasanjo didn't want to serve under Muritala. What are your thoughts on these revelations?
Well, these are interesting revelations. I think it's at the book presentation, former head of state, General Yakubu Gowon. All of these things came out at that event. Well, in reviewing what General Gowon is saying, at the end of the war, the civil war between 1967 and 1970, General Gowon declared a no victor, no vanquished, position. That somehow resonated with many Nigerians, Southeasterners who were predominantly Igbos. The whole policy was to reintegrate them back to the Nigerian society. But many years after, can we say that the Southeast, that's the Southeast who went into that war as Biafrans, have been fully reintegrated into Nigeria? I doubt if that is the situation, because we still see in Lagos State, in many states across the country, we still see discrimination against the Igbos in this country. So to the extent that that is happening, I do not think that that policy of 3-arrow reintegration and all that is working. Well, it's a good thing that General Gowon has documented his experiences as head of state, and particularly during the war, in a book for posterity. Many Nigerians, interestingly, do not read books these days, but I think it's a book that people should read so that we can have a deeper knowledge of our history, of what happened, you know, and how we got to where we are right now. Now, with regards to Vice President Shettima, in that revelation that, people told Tinubu that the whole idea was to kill him and succeed him. That is how it is with leadership. If you are in government or you are close to government, you discover that psychophants are everywhere. People will hijack, build a wall, a thick wall around, whether it's the president, the governor, chairman of a local government. As long as you occupy a position of authority and power, there are individuals who will be whispering into your ears all the time. Most of those whispers are not true. It is actually, to protect their own personal interests and to shield some other persons away. Shettima, the vice president, does not come across to me like a man who will want to take out his principal, the president. So it is good that these clarifications are coming out now. For those who went to sell this dummy to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu that his deputy wants to eliminate him, I think by now they should be burying their heads in shame. But going forward, I do not know the mindset of President Tinubu, whether he actually bought into that story or not. But I recall at the onset of the administration in 2023, between 2023 and 2024, when these unsubstantiated, allegations came out, there was a bit of a frosty relationship between the president and the vice president. I think maybe then the matter was being investigated. But right now, you can see that the president sends his deputy, the vice president, everywhere. He was in Sochi, he was in Russia, he's traveling everywhere to represent the president. So that, for me, simply shows that the relationship is back to normal.
Mr. Carrier, let's go to New Telegraph. It's leading with politics and health. 2027 House senators who defected to APC for refuge lost return tickets at primaries. So that is holding sway. We've seen what happened with the House of Reps. Senate today is going to be the House of Assemblies across the country as well. And then beneath that story, you see the Ebola story that U.S. stops visa services for 3 African nations. What are your thoughts?
Well, let me just start with the Ebola story that, again, is coming out in DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo. That country, for me, I do not really know what is happening in the DRC. Every time Ebola, there will be Ebola outbreak in the DRC, and then at some point they will take care of it. After a while, it resurfaces. So I don't understand, why that is happening. Already, countries bordering the DRC, Uganda is already affected. Rwanda has closed their border, to prevent, the disease from crossing the borders into Rwanda. And the world is a global village. People are traveling. People are flying in. In Nigeria, people are flying in from the East African countries. So I've read a report that the federal government too has tightened the border, the entry points into Nigeria, particularly the airports, the seaport, and maybe the land borders. I hope that works. So it's unfortunate, and already, as at yesterday evening, as I was monitoring the news, close to 200 Congolese have died as a result of this Ebola outbreak. It is so unfortunate, really, really unfortunate. Now, with regards to political developments back home, this morning the papers are reporting that about 12 senators may not be returning to the Senate, to the 11th Senate, and about 58 House of Reps members on the platform of the ruling All Progressives Congress who have lost their return bid may not be returning. Now, if you look at the list of many of the, particularly at the House of Reps and a few of the senators, they were elected on the platform of the Labour Party. But as soon as they got to the National Assembly, many of them defected to the ruling APC, maybe hoping that the APC will provide a shield for them and guarantee them a smooth return. They have shot themselves in the leg. Nigerians are watching very closely the political development. If you are given a mandate on the platform of a political party, and you go to the National Assembly and ditch your people, you will come back to them. The delegates are Nigerians, and they see through some of these politicians. And that is why you can see what is happening. Many of them are crying wolf now and blaming the internal mechanism of the APC. That is not the issue. The issue is Nigerians have rejected some of these individuals on the basis of their betrayal, of the trust reposed in them by those who elected them. So this is a wake-up call. It's a lesson, as I said, whether the political class are learning from this. We are waiting to see. 2027 is around the corner. This simply shows that Nigerians are wiser, they are more politically savvy and conscious. And that is going to reflect in the conduct of the elections next year across all the political parties. So the time for nail-biting may just be around the corner for most of these political prostitutes that we have parading themselves as politicians.
Interesting analysis there, Mr. Carrier. And, we did speak to some of the possible outcomes yesterday, and that would be this being a test of loyalty for those who have lost out at the contest for the primaries. And so will they remain committed to their party, whether they are settlers or aborigines, using Jeffrey's description? So,
no, Bukola, unfortunately, they have been shut out. By May 10, all political parties, by the amended Electoral Act, have submitted the list of their registered members. And the new Electoral Act, prohibits political parties or politicians from cross-party to another political party, to pursue their ambition. So I think generally for those that could not make it through the primaries, they just have to wait for another 4 years. That is what it is by the law.
Well, so the door has been shut on them, definitively. Interesting. So let's get to the Vanguard newspaper now. And, it trails on where you started from this morning, Mr. Kiria, and it's a sad one. It increases, the grief that we all feel this morning. Oyo school abduction, 2-year-old toddler among 46 victims. And there are a host of writers here that provide more insight into what's happening there. Communities list names, ages of victims, 25 pupils, teachers still missing in Oyo. Police, that's ascribed to the police. IGP deploys additional detectives. We're deploying resources to secure return of victims. That's according to the DHQ. It's a national disgrace. PFN, Atiku to Tinubu, you can't govern by obituary statements. Nigeria losing its humanity. That's ascribed to Mr. Peter Obi. And OPCs, the federal government. Governors equip us to confront perpetrators. So some other security initiatives promising to provide intervention there. Perhaps you may want to speak to, some of the new revelations as far as the Oyo school abduction is concerned and the reactions coming through, from other state institutions. But let's kill two birds with one stone now. At the top of the Vanguard, on the right-hand corner, depending on where you're watching from, 2027, Jonathan gets PDP waiver, emerges Turaki camp's sole presidential candidate. Mr. Kiria.
Well, absolutely. I started with the Oyo abduction. Security is everybody's business. I commend the Nigerian Army, the Nigerian Air Force, the police, the NSCDC, the DSS, including the vigilantes, the local vigilantes in the area who are doing a yeoman's job. Now, what former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has said and Peter Obi is saying should not be read from the point of view of, the opposition trying to criticize the federal government. What they are saying clearly resonates with many Nigerians. See, for too long, I think that the federal government and the state government has pampered the issue of insecurity. I read a report this morning. The OPC is saying that they have the capacity. I lived in Lagos for many years, where I worked as editor of a couple of newspapers and magazines. Now, I am familiar with the way the OPC operates. The OPC of Gani Adams, those days, where they were also involved in a couple of extrajudicial killings and all kinds of brigandage. But they have the capacity to deal with this issue. In the first place, the very reason why the OPC was set up was to secure the southwest, the forest, the southwest region. But over time, security agencies were clamping on them, and then they tended to move to the backstage. I read another report this morning where Sunday Adeyemo, popularly known as Igboho, was actually saying that his own security outfit, the Iriekun, has the capacity to go into all of the forests in the southwest and flush out these marauding killers in the forest. And that he was simply waiting for government, whether it's the Oyo state government and the federal government. He has written several letters. He has communicated to government to grant him and his team the permission to go into those forests and take these individuals out. So what is the delay for? That is why many people are speculating that the government perhaps have more information or know what some of us don't know. People are being killed. Children are in the forest, nursing mothers. You don't, how they even eat, how they survive, the kind of water they drink, their condition. Nobody bothers. We are just behaving as if it is business as usual. I feel ashamed this morning. I do not know how any Nigerian, we're not even about traveling to the West or to Europe, how you can stand before a fellow African and say you are a Nigerian with all of this negative news. in the public domain, in the internet, in the Facebook. It's awash. The mathematics teacher was beheaded, and these terrorists posted that video on Facebook, on the social media, and everything is about Nigeria. It is that Nigeria that will have generals being shot point blank range by terrorists. And these individuals will be rehabilitated, will be accommodated by the same government. That is why most Nigerians clearly are not happy with what is happening. And I think the security issue is going to be a major driver of political decisions in 2027. It is not about, yes, the economic situation, yes, Nigerians are able to manage, but how is it that you're not able to travel from one state to the other, even when you do not travel? You go to school, you go to market, people will come there and kidnap you and behead you.
Yeah.
What kind of society, what kind of country do we have?
And
the ruling elite is just keeping quiet.
And we can go on.
So yeah, where to the,
you can land on your thought.
On this issue. It's limitless, yes. We can go on and on with the issue of insecurity now. It's limitless. So it is a wake-up call on the government this morning that the time for writing condolence messages only with bereaved family is over. It is time for action. For more than 3 days, it's Sunday. I think this incident happened on Friday. Today is Wednesday. So it's going to 5 days now. We are still yet to actually arrest these killers in the forest. We are told that the forests have been barricaded. They have to be arrested immediately before they kill more of the abductees and captives. Indeed. So that is what it is, yes.
Indeed, the subject of insecurity is inexhaustible. Pardon me, Mr. Kira, we must anchor at this point, and thank you very much for coming on the program. Of course, politics is also clearly an ongoing conversation, but the most important point being that governance must not suffer, while politicking is going on. Mr. Igor Akeria is a member, Nigerian Guild of Editors. Thank you for coming through on the newspaper review segment.
Thank you so very much, Bukola. Thank you.
And so beyond the need to tighten our borders as far as security is concerned, how are we firming up those borders as well, especially amid the Ebola alert? Stay with us for this very important conversation. We'll be right back after this break.